Good morning again, Algebra. We have another exciting lesson, so sit back. It's the quadratic formula. Here we go. One of the classic things of algebra that one of the hallmarks you think of when you think of algebra, for me, I think about factoring, I think about the FOIL method, and I think about the quadratic formula. These are just classic things. The quadratic formula is simply another way to solve a quadratic equation, something in this form. Remember, this is called standard form. The coefficient in front of the x squared term is the a, the coefficient in front of the x is the b, and the other one is the c. Okay? So once you have a, b, and c, this is what's known as the quadratic formula. The opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And at first, I know that seems like a lot, but you're going to memorize it, and it's going to become very second nature. You're going to have it memorized. It's going to be very easy to do. So all we need to do for any quadratic formula, I'll pick one that we did the other day in class. X squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. So there's a sample formula, or sample equation, and we're simply going to pick out the a, b, and c for that formula. So the a is going to be 1. The b is going to be negative 1, sorry. And the c is going to be negative 2. Do you see where those come from? Now we're simply going to plug them in up here. If you remember, we could solve this one by graphing it, which we did in a lesson a few days ago. We could also solve it by the zero product property, which we could factor it real quick. X plus 1 and x minus 2. And you're going to solve that, and you're going to figure out that the answers are going to be, eventually, x equals negative 1 and x equals 2. So I'll put those up in the corner here just to show you that all these are going to give you the same answers. For right now, though, let's solve it with the quadratic formula. So a is negative 1, b is negative, or so a is 1, b is negative 1, and c is negative 2. So plug these in here. So the opposite of b, so that's going to be 1. And first we'll go through and we'll do plus, and then we'll go through and we'll do minus. Square root b squared is going to be 1 minus 4 times 1 times negative 2. All over 2 times a, which is going to be 2. So let's simplify this. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. 1 minus negative 8 is going to be 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 divided by 2. So one of our answers is 2. Now this time we're going to go through and we're going to subtract. This is all going to stay the same, but we're going to subtract. So this is the square root of 9, which is 3. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 2. Our other answer is negative 1. And do you see how it matches up with what we found with the zero product property? It also matches up with what we found when we graphed it. It went through something like that at 2 and negative 1 here. Okay? So that's all there is to the quadratic formula. Now, occasionally, remember when we were graphing, we talked about there's 3 possibilities. The parabola could cross the x-axis in 2 places. It could cross the x-axis just by touching it at one place, or it could not cross at all. So if that's the case, that also means that the quadratic formula sometimes is going to give you 2 separate answers like we had this time. Sometimes what's going to happen really is that this will end up being 0. And when you add the 0 and you subtract the 0, it's going to give you the same exact answer. You're going to end up with just one answer. And sometimes this will end up being a negative number in here, And since you can't do the square root of a negative number, the whole thing gives you no answer at all. Those are the kind of parabolas that don't touch the x-axis. So just like with graphing, you're going to sometimes have two answers, you're sometimes going to have one answer, and you'll sometimes have no answers. So there it is. Commit this to memory, and you'll be good to go. All right.